everybody. Happy Thursday. I'm Pia from Stitches and Scraps, and this is Lunchtime Live, episode 88. For those of you who are new here, Lunchtime Live is basically my video newsletter, so I'll be telling you about everything that's going on at Stitches and Scraps, what's coming up, what I've been working on, all of that kind of stuff. And then we finish off with a short demo. Now for this year, for 2022, I've decided to do a stitch of the week as my demo. And I'm alternating between knit and crochet stitches. So today's stitch is going to be the knit dandelion stitch, which is super fun. This is what it looks like when it's all done. And I will show that to you at the end of the video. But first, let's talk about what's new at Stitches and Scraps. Now, as I talk about things, if you want to find the link to those things, in the description on this video, there is a link to a blog post. In that blog post, I have a list of everything that I plan to talk about today. So if I mention a pattern or a tutorial, you can jump over to that post and the link will be there. So let's get into it. What is new for this week? Well, yesterday I posted an updated version of an old pattern. Good morning, Beth. How are you? I posted an updated version of my butterfly stitch knit washcloth, which was originally back from 2017. So a couple weeks ago, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, we did butterfly stitch as our stitch of the week on Lunchtime Live. And as I was looking back at that old pattern, because I was referencing it, I noticed a couple of mistakes, mainly in the chart. I had made the wrong row numbers on a couple of the rows in the chart. And I thought, you know what, good opportunity to just redo this pattern. So I just went ahead and redid the pattern. Let me see if I can find my sample of butterfly stitch in all these samples here. No, it's not here. Oh wait, nope. Nope, it's not there. I've got some of them down here, but not all of them. But anyway, if you go to the blog post, you'll see a link there. But I've updated that pattern now, and I updated it with the current format of everything too, so it'll match my other patterns. I updated the PDF on Ravelry. If you've bought the pattern before, you should have got the updated version. And I'll keep doing that to some of my previous patterns as we go along. There's another one I'm waiting to do when I get a moment soon. Just to keep everything fresh and up to date, right? Good morning, Mary. It's good to see you. How are you today? So that's basically the only new-ish post or pattern that I managed to get out this week. It's been a very busy week behind the scenes because the Crochet Guild of America conference, the Chain Link conference, is coming up. It's in New Orleans. And when I say coming up, I mean June, because these things take forever to plan. So I'm on the board for the CGOA, if you don't know, and we've been pretty swamped with planning for the conference. It's going to be very exciting to all be back in person. And one of the reminders I have for you actually for this week is that the fashion show entries, if you are coming to the conference, we do a fashion show during the banquet on the last evening. You don't have to be going to the banquet to participate, you just have to be going to the conference to participate. And basically, it's a lot of fun. It's very laid back. You don't have to be a designer. It doesn't have to be something that you've written a pattern for or anything like that. Just, it's kind of like dressed up show and tell. Right? It's like, it's a cross between show and tell and playing dress up. Basically, bring something that you're really proud of that you've made and show it off to everybody. And we have usually we have a little runway. I don't know what the layout's going to be this time, but usually we have like a little runway and there'll be an announcer or an MC that's reading off cue cards telling everybody about your pattern. And you just walk and do a little twirl and say, hey, look at what I made. And then you walk back and that's it. And if you're not comfortable getting up on stage and doing it yourself, we prefer if you do, but if you don't, we can actually get models or you can pick somebody to model it. The only thing is you have to be a CGOA member and attending the conference in order to participate. The reason for that is we need you to pick up your stuff. First of all, we need you to bring it to conference, and then we need you to take it away after conference. But the fashion show is always fun. It's a highlight of the conference for me. I don't know about everybody else. But I can't wait to see what everybody made. It'll be so fun to be in person this year. But that deadline for getting those entries in is Sunday. Sunday. You've got to get those entries in. We don't have a whole lot for this year so far, so we'd love to get more in. And the link to that is, again, in that blog post on my video. But yeah, just whatever you've got, you know, shawls, scarves, bags. I put in, and I just finished mine today because I'm horrible and wait to the last minute like everyone else. I put in a sweater that I made, and I put in a, what else did I, oh, I did my second bag, the bag for the bag-along cow that we've been working on. I put that one in. Speaking of which, the giveaway for that bag, remember in the bag-along, crochet-along that we're doing, there's a different bag every 2 months, and there's a giveaway that goes along with each bag, right? All of it sponsored by We Crochet. The giveaway for the second bag, which was the basic toolkit, because it's, or basic tools pack, because it's a project bag, and I wanted, you know, a basic tool pack to stick in it. The giveaway for that ends today, no, not today, tomorrow, the 29th, at the end of the day, Central Time. So 11:59 p.m. Central Time tomorrow is the deadline for that giveaway. So if you haven't entered that yet, be sure to get those entries in as well. And that means that next week on May 2nd-ish, Tuesday, whatever the Tuesday is, I'm going to be announcing the next giveaway for bag number 3. We're already on bag number 3. So for the bag number 3 giveaway, we're going to be doing, and again, all from We Crochet, right? This is all sponsored by We Crochet. This set of Clover Pom Pom Makers. It's got 4 different sizes, and these are so much fun. I've got a couple patterns that I use these for as well. I know that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the bag that we're working on, but I just wanted to make sure that was one of our prizes because I think they're super cool. And then always useful stitch markers, and this tin has the pear-shaped stitch markers. Here, let me see if I can open it up and show you. This tin has a set of these pear-shaped metal stitch markers in here, and 3 different colors, which is useful because you always need like a different color to mark the first stitch of the round and stuff like that. So this tin of stitch markers and this set of Pom Pom Makers is the prize for bag number 3. So what is bag number 3? Well, it's going to be, and this is a sneak peek, no one's seen this yet because I haven't even finished making it yet. It's going to be a mandala bag. And the cool part about this one, let me zoom out a bit here. There we go. The cool part about this one is you have 2 options. There's this super complicated mandala with a layered flower and everything. In fact, I called it the layered flower mandala because I'm just that creative with names. This mandala is one option, and this super easy striped mandala is the second option. So you can do your bag with one of each, or you can do both flowers, or you can do both stripes, either way. The other optional thing in this pattern is this sewn lining. And let me tell you, you guys, my sewing skills suck, like really badly. And I managed to do this without too much trouble. So if I can pull this off, you can totally pull this off. And I'm going to have a tutorial. One of the tutorials for the bag will be this, but it's basically 2 circles and a strip of fabric. It's not that hard. And it's hidden inside a bag, right? Sewing bag linings is something that I'm more confident with because it's hidden inside a bag. So nobody's going to see it. But this is the lining, and it's got a zipper. And if you don't do the lining, then you can sew the zipper directly into the bag. Either way is cool. But this is, I'm still putting it together. It's nearly done, but I'll have the list of materials for this ready on Tuesday, which I believe is the 2nd. So that is bag number 3. I know, very exciting, right? It'll be super cool when it's all done too. And I bet you could throw a pom-pom or 2 on there if you wanted to. But I will have that ready soon. And then what else is coming up for next week? Let me see. I've got a list here. I talked to you about that. Oh, I'm still working on that, or not still working on, I haven't started yet working on that butterfly swimsuit cover up that I was talking to you about last week. I will get working on that. I've just had other things come up. And next week's pattern for the stitch of the week is going to be granny stitch in crochet, which I'm not talking about a granny square, I'm talking about granny stitch. So it's the same stitch you would use in a traditional granny square, but done in rows instead. It's super great for color work. I love the way granny stitch looks in stripes. So I'm going to show you, well, and you can deal with them as like individual blocks and do like Grafghan sort of things with them if you like it. It's a little more open, so it's not as solid, but you can still get a good design out of it. Like if you wanted to do a blanket with a big heart in the center or something, totally doable in granny stitch. So I'm going to do that one for next week, but for this week we have the knit dandelion stitch. So let me switch over to that one. And this is a super fun stitch. I've got that upside down. There we go. This is a super fun stitch that is so much easier than it looks. All it is, all of these loops that you see that are so cool looking, all that is loops that you pull up in between your stitches. So let's look at how to make that. And I'm going to show you what I did here. And then I'm going to talk to you about different things that you can do. So the dandelion stitches worked over 6 stitches for each little dandelion, and I put 2 extra stitches on the end, on each end of this, just to give me a little bit more to work with. So I'm just going to show you the one dandelion right now. You're going to be working 3 rows below to pick up the loops. So you have to have at least 3 rows done so that you have something to pick up. So I've done 4 rows here of just stockinette, and the background to this is all stockinette. So I've just done stockinette, and now I'm going to show you how to make the dandelion. So first I'm working my 2 edge stitches, which I'm just knitting. And then we get to the beginning of the dandelion. So the first stitch on the dandelion you're going to knit. The dandelion has 6 stitches, right? It's got 1 on each side that's really just an anchoring stitch. And then these 4 stitches, 2 go between the loops, and then these 2 go between the loops. So that's why you have 6. The 1 on each side is really just a stitch to anchor it in place. So I've knit the first stitch. Now let's pick up some loops. I'm going to count 2 stitches over, and then 1, 2, 3 stitches down. Okay, so it's the 3rd row below. So this is the current row. This is the 1st row below, 2nd row below, 3rd row below. So it's the 3rd row below the 2nd stitch on your needle. I know that sounds confusing, but you're counting 2 over and 3 down. So the pattern will say the 3rd row below the 2nd stitch on your needle. Okay, so we find that stitch, 1, 2, 3, we stick our needle in. Now for this first loop, I find it easiest to use my right hand needle, my working needle. For the other 2 loops, I find it easiest to use the other needle. So what we're going to do, we're going to stick the loop in, and we're basically knitting. We're wrapping the yarn around, and we're going to pull out a loop from here. Oop. There we go. Pull out a loop from here. Okay. And the difference is we're going to pull this loop up nice and big, nice and loose. Okay, because we don't want to pull on the stitches around it. So we've got this nice big loop now coming out of that stitch. And I'm actually going to hold it in place with my thumb while I make the next stitch so that I'm not accidentally pulling it too tight. So now I'm going to do the next stitch, and that'll kind of lock it in place, and now it's pretty set with tension. And then I do 1 more stitch. So there's 2 stitches between each of the loops, okay? So I've done those 2 stitches. Now I'm going to pull up another loop. I can go like this and do the same thing again. Okay, so that is one option. I actually find it easier to control the tension if I go in with this needle and scoop the yarn up. So I'm just wrapping it under that needle and then scooping the yarn up like that. And then I can really pick it up and get good tension on it and then just slide it over to that needle. So I find that easier, but you can do it whichever way is easier for you. Now I'm again going to knit 2 stitches to be between this loop and the next one. So I pull it up nice and tall, hold it with my thumb and knit 2 stitches. Okay, now we need to pull up the 3rd loop. And this one I find nearly impossible to go backwards and go into that hole. So it's much easier to use this needle. Grab that loop and pull it through. You could even use a crochet hook if that's easier to pull these loops up. But now I've got that loop up and I'm just going to transfer it onto that needle. Okay, and then the last stitch, so we worked 1 edge stitch here, 2 in between those 2 loops, 2 in between those 2 loops, and then 1 more stitch here just to knit, just to lock it in place. So there's the dandelion. But now we've added these 3 loops, so now we have 3 extra stitches, right? On the next row, we're going to decrease to get rid of those 3 extra stitches. So let me finish off this row. I've just got a couple knit stitches here. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it over to work the wrong side row. So on the wrong side row, we're going to, there we go. We're going to work these first 2 stitches here, and we're purling now, but I knit the first stitch just to get a cleaner edge. Okay, so now we're up to our dandelion, which used to have 6 stitches, but now has 9, okay? Because we added those 3 loops. So we're going to purl the first stitch, and then we're going to purl 2 together. Notice this is one of the loops we added, and this is a stitch that's next to it, right? So purl 2 together. Then we purl the next stitch, and then we've come to another loop here, right? So we purl 2 together. Purl the next stitch, and look, we found our last loop here. So purl 2 together. So it's just purl 1, purl 2 together all the way across, and then I've come back to my last 2 edge stitches. So knit, or sorry, purl, and then I knit my edge stitch. Okay, so that is the dandelion stitch, and now we're back to the correct count. So let's talk about spacing. Here what I've done is I've put each dandelion stitch here has 2 stitches in between it, which, remember, because of that edge stitch that's just holding it in place, works out to be 4 stitches on the front side and then 3 stitches on the way back, because on the way back we knit this, oh, where is it? Here. We purled into this stitch by itself, so you can see that that kind of offsets it a little bit. So there's 3 plain stitches here and 2 plain stitches here, because this one we just purled to start our repeat. So it works out so that it looks centered, and it's totally fine, even though it's 2 stitches and not 3. Okay, so then on the next row, I spaced it with the 2 stitches in between here, and this one worked into, you know, like I borrowed 2 stitches from here, I borrowed 2 stitches from here, and that made 6 stitches across here to work that dandelion stitch. So you can stagger like that, or you can work in straight columns, but remember, you're going to need three stitches at least. You're probably going to do 4, so you can do front, back, front, back, front, back. But you need at least 3 rows below to be able to pick up the dandelion. So you could do a dandelion and then, you know, knit, purl, right? Like 4 rows of stockinette, and then do another dandelion if you wanted to do them stacked. So stacked or staggered, either way is fine. You can space them out farther or closer together. You can also make more petals on your dandelion. So what if, you know what, I'm gonna knit 4 stitches real quick here, but while I talk through it, or 4 rows. Okay, so when we worked this dandelion, we had 2 stitches between each petal, right? But what if we spaced it out even more and we only put 1 stitch between each petal? Then we could have 5 petals because we have 4 stitches to go in between them, right? So that's what I'm going to try on this next one. Good morning, Lashira. How are you? Did I say that right? Is it Lashira? We can chat for a couple minutes while I'm just knitting up 4 rows of stockinette. So that I can show you another dandelion. So what has everybody been up to this week? Did you make anything cool? Have you been knitting? Have you been crocheting? What have you been working on? I got 1 more row to go. 2 more rows to go, sorry. I am good. How are you? I'm very relaxed this week. Normally Thursday comes along and I'm all stressed and hyper because I gotta do the live and 500 million other things. For some reason, everything always seems to get jammed up onto Thursdays. And today I'm just like chill. Like everything's cool. I've had a very busy week and today's just this. This is all I got today. You are crocheting a shawl. Cool. What kind of shawl? I'm on my last row, so I'll pop back in a second. Okay, done. Let me pop back here. All right, so I want to show you this same dandelion stitch, but with 5 petals instead of 3. So let's do that. Here's my first 2 edge stitches. You're working on the anti-striped Afghan, Beth. Cool, I like that one. Okay, so in this one, well, first we're gonna knit the first stitch, right? Because that's the anchoring stitch. Now in this one, we pulled up a loop and then we knit 2. Yeah, then pulled up a loop and then knit 2. This time I'm going to pull up a loop, knit 1, pull up a loop, knit 1, etc., etc. So let's try that. I haven't actually tried this yet, guys. This is in theory. 1, 2, 3. So we second stitch over, 3 stitches down. So 1, 2, 3. And this is another thing you can modify, right? You can make your dandelions taller by going more stitches down if you want to. But here we're going 3, okay? We're pulling up a loop. There's our first loop, all right? Then, oh, I didn't hold it in place. There we go. Hold it in place, knit the next stitch, and now we would normally knit the next stitch as well, but I'm gonna skip that. I'm gonna pull up another loop. Okay, so there's my loop number 2. Put that on the needle, hold it in place, and knit the next stitch. And then do it again, pull up loop number 3. Okay, I'm pulling them up nice and big, hold that on the needle, and knit the next stitch. Okay, now that was 3, so this is 4. Knit the next stitch. And then I'll go slow on this one in case you haven't seen this. Let's see. Go into that same hole, wrap the yarn around the bottom, and pull up this loop nice and tall and stick it on the needle. Okay, so now I have 5 stitches on the needle. And now I just knit the last stitch to anchor everything in place. So that's a much more full kind of dandelion than the one we have down here. Let's see how that works from the decreases. Lashira, I'm learning from you because I couldn't knit like this. Yes, you can. If I can, you can. Believe it or not, crochet is more my thing. I'm not as good at knitting, though I've been picking it up a lot more recently. But I went probably 25 years of my life between learning to knit and then not knitting anymore. So this is a great, this is actually a really easy stitch. It's just stockinette with occasionally pulling up a loop. And if you find it easier, you could even use a crochet hook to pull that loop out. You just have to go in this hole somehow and pull out a loop. And that's all that this is. So now we've added 5 stitches. So we had 6 stitches in our dandelion and now we've got 11. So we've got to do 5 decreases, right? So here we go. I'm knitting my 2 edge stitches, or working my 2 edge stitches. I am again doing a garter stitch edge, so I'm knitting the first stitch and then I'm purling the second stitch because I'm doing stockinette. Okay, now I've come to my dandelion and here are all 11 stitches of my big dandelion. So again, I'm going to purl the first stitch all by itself, right? Because we just need to do 5 decreases. So I purled the first stitch, I have 10 stitches left. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm just going to do 5 decreases. So for every loop, you need to have 1 stitch paired with it so you can decrease it off. So 5 is the most you can do with this stitch count. So I'm just doing 5 purl 2 togethers. There's my last one. Okay, and then I'm down to my 2 edge stitches, so I'm purling that one and I'm knitting this one. Okay, so there you can see we made the same dandelion using the same technique, but with 5 loops instead of 3. And it's a different look, right? This looks more like a dandelion to me, and this looks more, I don't know, I would almost call it a shell of some sort, right? Or a fan of some sort, but that's definitely an option. So other things we can do with this stitch, like I said, you can work more rows in between and then drop down lower. So instead of going down 3 stitches, you could go down 5 stitches. You could go down 6 stitches, as low as you want, and make really giant dandelions. That might even space these 5 out more. If you wanted to do 5 and do it like 4 or 5 rows below, it might give you more of this kind of spacing. So that's an option. You could do more than 5, but you need a larger stitch count, because remember, you need to have at least 1 stitch to pair with each loop that you pull up. But the standard dandelion stitch, the one that you'll see everywhere, is this one that we did first, with dropping down 3 stitches and making the 3 loops with 2 stitches in between each loop. And that is how you knit the dandelion stitch. And Lashira, I know you came in late and you probably missed the beginning of it. That's okay. It'll be available for replay right after we're done here. So let me see what else. You are, oh, thank you. I'm glad you like my background. This, I have to say this every time someone mentions my background, this sign back here, that was made by a lady named Shauna. Her company is Strung by Shauna, and she is so awesome. I literally just sent her my logo and said, can you make me one with this? And she gave me some options on what kind of wood, and then we looked at the colors, and then this is what she made. And it's just amazing. I love this so much. I can't even get over it. So yeah, very, very fabulous. And it wasn't even that expensive for what it is. I mean, it was, I don't even remember the price, but it was really well priced for what it is. Because I know how much work that kind of thing takes. It's that thing where you like nail in the outline and then you wrap the yarn around it to make the shapes. And she just did a fabulous job. So cannot say enough about her. That's Strung by Shauna. I hope she's still in business. I think she is. I don't know. I haven't actually talked to her in a couple of years. But so that's all I had for you guys today. Is there anything else anybody had any questions on or anything like that? Otherwise, remember, you can always reach out to me afterwards too. You can find me. You can use the contact me page on my site. You can find me on all the social media as Stitches and Scraps, except for Pinterest, where I'm like, well, not even there. You can search Stitches and Scraps and you'll find me. Don't find me on Twitter. I don't tweet. I have an account, but I don't tweet. But you can reach me anywhere else. Facebook is where I live pretty much. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out. And hopefully I'll see you all next week as well. So for now, I'll just say have a great weekend. See you all next week. Bye.